Hello and welcome to Enterprise Friday. Well, this Friday is different because it's Good Friday, even though it didn't look that way to those who witnessed the event that made it the day it has become. I'm Chinyere Igwe Odo, and certainly good days are better when shared. Henry, isn't that true?
Yes, I am Henry Igwe, and welcome to Good Friday, Chinyere.
So, Henry, I'd expected to see you all garbed in black.
Well, I am not all gapped in black, but I think I fasted today. Did you fast today?
Oh, well, I haven't had breakfast. So maybe we are fasted. But I'm cladded in black white to, to go into the spirit of Good Friday.
It's true.
Yes.
All right. So this is newspaper review for today, Good Friday. And after that, in the jiffy would be in conversation also for today, and also a special episode for you today, Good Friday. So I will get everything all sorted out for you. Please do well to visit our website at www.enterprisetvnews.com. Like, comment, and follow us on our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. With us today in the studios to do justice to our newspaper reviews is Emeka Madunagu. He is a journalist and also public affairs commentator. Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, and also we have Dr. Evans Ufeli. He is a barrister at law and also a public affairs commentator. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome to Good Friday today.
My pleasure.
All right. So we'll begin the dailies in no particular order. With the Daily Times. On the mast, we have DHQ declares physics professor, 7 others wanted for killing 17 soldiers. We also have, the writer says, troops would continue with effort until culprits are arrested and tried. Military releases 313 terror suspects to Borno government. And above the mast, we have Minister direct new marshals to smoke out illegal miners. All right, so on the Daily Times, I'll just focus on the big story, which is on the mast. DH declares physics professor, 7 others wanted for killing 17 soldiers. And I'll begin the question asking the consummate lawyer whose ingenuity has been tried and tested, and that's Barrister Evans today on the program. You're welcome once again, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, so the issue of the killings in Okwama and its neighboring community, warring neighboring community, has been in the eye of the storm, and a lot of stories emanating from Delta State. I was wondering which one to go with. That the military had gone for peacekeeping. Some people are saying that it's not within the remit of the military, but the duty of the police to go for peacekeeping. In the community, I saw a viral video of one of the militants saying that the military were sent by some top people to maybe take over the communities and pick a few persons to kill. A lot of stories back and forth. But I would like for you to give us context as to what really happened. Should the military have even been there in the first place? And why is the military not speaking in terms of who gave the order for them to go on the peacekeeping mission? And then what is the true perspective to this story?
Well, you see, many times our law enforcement agents, the military inclusive, some of them go for illegal operations many times. It is very probable that this was an illegal operation, very probable. But when something wrong now happens, they will now say the military were attacked or were killed. But these are people that are outside the scope of their engagement, most times. Just like we were discussing before we came on air, that police do this a lot too. They go mount illegal roadblocks and all that. It is when they are attacked by kidnappers or criminals and they are killed, they will not declare that policemen have been killed. But those were criminals, criminal policemen. That's what we should be able to state it clearly. If you're on illegal operation, it should be spelled out. I'm not saying that soldiers should be killed, whether they are doing the wrong thing, whether they are in an illegal operation. I'm not saying soldiers should be killed or the police either. But I'm saying that it is clear that this operation is not within the purview of the army. We can't say that enough. And these men went there. The allegation that they were not there for the peaceful settlement of both communities is very probable. The people who perceived them to be threat and attacked them could have done that based on whatever information they've gotten. They are coming to take over our community or things like that. So the only way that we can stay away from this kind of contradiction is when the military ensure that their operation must be by order, okay, by order. But where they go around, they leave the line of their duty to go. Some of them, especially the police, leave the line of their duty, they go somewhere and start extorting money from people and all that. Those illegalities is responsible for this kind of, that is why you see the military, they are not talking. They are not talking, they are just doing internal stuff and all that. And this person's kill, the federal government says, okay, we will take care of the children and the family of these persons. But that will not erase the fact that the military should do a proper investigation within itself and to ensure that they get to the root of this, who made the order, under what authority was the order made, for whom, on what purpose. If there are civilians involved, the investigation should be holistic. And for the suspects, I hope this is proper investigation. Because when you make these allegations, we have to prove further in the court of law. Because you can't just say these are the persons responsible. When you charge them to court, do they have the requisite evidence that will incorporate these persons when trial commences? Because any mistake made now in terms of mistaken identity, in terms of lack of proper evidence and the rest of that, any mistake made now will mar the case when it gets to court.
All right, so please, before I move on to our other guest, I think it's very important because I feel you are the best person to answer this question. The time invested in grooming a professor from his first degree to the last that he has is so much. Resources invested, time invested, and so on. Is it likely to have a professor as part of this criminal act, knowing what he knows, especially his contribution in the society, his contribution to people that he is teaching? Is it likely to have a professor as part of this?
Well, you cannot actually project and say that it is improbable that because he's a professor, he's incapable of undertaking criminal activities, or because he's a professor, he's incapable of indulging in conspiracy, or, you see, all these persons that have been fingered, the charge sheet, when they finally prefer a charge sheet against them, that is when you will know their involvement. He may not have been in the, but if there is a confessional statement from one suspect that inculpates the other person, they go for the other person, you understand? So until it is proper, what I'm saying is, your education really does not immune you from actual criminality or conspiracy to sin. You understand? On a general scale, it is improbable that a professor of physics should be given a reasonable man's standard for what he has been able to acquire intellectually. It is improbable that he should be involved. Okay? You understand? That is a general rule. But the exception to the general rule is that we have seen people who are highly educated but have certain deficits or deficiencies in either character or moral. Okay? You can actually go to a university, pass all exams, and the university will certify you that you are fit and proper in character and learning because you have passed the exams. Okay. Most time, we all went to university. Our conduct is not really the focal point as against our grades. Our grades is taken much more higher than our conduct. You understand? Except when you violate squarely, lay down rules, or you are but the truth is, you can be very intelligent, be very dutiful, pass your exams, make flying colors, but you could have character deficiency, you could have some other things. You understand? I'm not saying he's involved. All the persons mentioned are suspects. Okay? Anybody can be a suspect. Okay? I mean, the day these guys were arrested, if they found them with friends, they could arrest those friends and join. Profile them, they make statement. The ones that they find their statement incorporating, they will take them further. The one that they feel that this one don't know, this doesn't have a tendency to, they will leave them. So they are all suspects. So get them to, a point where you charge them, prove your case. And once you prove your case, that's fine. If you're unable to prove them, they'll go scot-free.
Very, very fine. Also, quickly, let's move on to our next daily today. It's coming from the Nation newspaper. And the big story here says, bank mergers likely as CBN directs 500 billion naira capital base. And we have on the rider of that same story, Apex Bank expects roadmap by April 30th. The financial institutions get a March 31, 2026 a deadline. And on the top strip of the same newspaper, just like we had on the last newspaper, Monarch surrenders. Professor 6 orders wanted over a soldier's killing. On the bottom strip of the same newspaper, we have Tinubu lifting Nigeria to enviable heights, say Buhari, governors, and others. Mr. Emeka, the issue of 500 billion naira capital base. Is this the best with our monetary policy? Is this the best coming from the CBN in order to ensure that there is a sustainable economy in our nation, especially as it relates to the real economy?
Well, the CBN has regulatory oversight in the economy, and so it's well within its purview and its rights to put forward a minimum capital requirement. Now at this point is 500 billion. Yes, I think the Nigerian economy definitely has matured to that level to make such ambitious projections. Now it would also mean the banks will go outside the country and look for foreign capital so that they can be more focused on banking. You see, unfortunately, after banks, did the recapitalization whereby they moved to 25 billion, I think they got involved in a lot of things. They stretched retail banking so far and wide into things that had nothing to do with proper banking. So now that they're increasing their minimum requirement, capitalization requirement, I think it will help the economy better. And the economy, and then it will also ensure that government has to put in place certain macroeconomic reforms. Yes, you have increased the interest rates twice in order to encourage Nigerians to save more. Yes, but at this point, borrowing to the real sector, borrowing by the real sector might be difficult because you have fundamental problems that are hindering growth. Power supply is a major problem. Insecurity is a major problem. Then now you have high import duties. Customs has increased import duties by 500%. So where is the incentive to import inputs, to import raw materials? Now you're talking of import substitution, which a number of governments across over decades have talked about. You don't just take somebody's product and replicate them in your country. It's only China that has been able to significantly and successfully do that. A lot is involved in it. Yeah, because it's not just to get the product out, but what they call after-sales service. If you produce this cup, for instance, you must ensure that people can have the parts to fix this cup if anything goes wrong with it. The parts must be available. And so far, it's only China that has been able to liberalize that sector such that any fairly experienced technician can actually go into the market, and have an array of Chinese spare parts, to buy. But Indians, they compartmentalize theirs, so you have to go to Indians to buy their parts. So, be that as it may, I think these issues, infrastructure is another problem. These issues, these macroeconomic, policies must be reviewed such that, industries can create jobs. the common man on the street can actually upgrade from mom and pop shops, to SMEs. We need more production. We need more production. There must be production, and then such that even while we're importing, we cannot stop people from importing. But let's produce more things here, so that when we now have a favorable balance of trade with different countries, of course, we can now say we're being serious. But if you just say 500 billion and you have so much money in the vaults of banks that they're not doing anything with, the tendency to go rogue again is there.
What is mergers? Is it safe to say that mergers in any economy is good? Or do we have, or should we have a situation where we allow at least banks do their business, autonomously without necessarily having mergers? How important is mergers to the economy?
Mergers and acquisitions are actually a legitimate part of business. Otherwise, economies will just keep dying. You see many countries will be collapsing. Yes. So it's a legitimate and desirable end. But the only thing is that you must avoid the politicization of such things. Like the accusations that have been made against the former CBN governor, Sanusi, concerning Intercontinental Bank, the acquisition of Intercontinental Bank by Access Bank. So you must make sure that the banks, as they are raising additional capital, they are focused on things that will help the economy to grow. Their net positions in terms of foreign exchange should be properly regulated so that they don't have so much foreign exchange in their vaults that are just sitting there idly, and then they now end up getting into a rogue area like speculation, speculating with the naira, going back and forth. There must be strict regulation beyond just merging them, beyond bigger banks acquiring smaller banks. There must be stricter regulation, and we need for the CBN to play its role properly.
All right. Thank you so much, Emeka, for your submission.
I think we'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, Enterprise Friday continues. Please don't go anywhere.
All right, let's now move to the Guardian newspaper and see what we have on there. So on the mast, we have 6 months on, 76 embassies, 109 foreign missions await new envoys. Below the mast, CBN gives banks 2 years to meet 500 billion new capital base. Beside the story, we have reps queries OAGF's payment on 115 billion to remitter accuses CBN of complicity. All that you'll find on the Guardian newspaper today.
All right, so I think it's very important we take some questions from the banner headline.
Okay.
What do you think? So the question is, 6 months on, 76 embassies, 109 foreign missions await new envoy. Are we seeing a reputation of what we had during Buhari's administration? Let's start with you, Dr. Vance.
Well, this is not well thought out. When we will have transitions and we have to send them missions, sometimes we run into this lack of preparedness. We saw it during the Buhari era when Buhari was even appointing dead people. Some he appointed them for mission, people who are long dead. Now you ask yourself, how are these appointments made? Who submitted the names? Who did the vetting? How come dead people are being appointed? So it tells you that most times when we have leaders in our country, they are leaders who are not actually prepared for the work. Okay, this one also shows that President Bola Tinubu was not doing much before he became a president. In some countries where, once you win election, there's a window. I mean, you win election, there's a window before the other person hands over. You understand? That is the time you are supposed to look at the stratosphere. You look at mission, you look at ministers, the intended appointees and on that, and do a proper analysis of how you'll be able to hit the ground running. You understand? The rush should not be to remove subsidy. The rush should be for you to transit proper such that you will not have vacuums. Okay? But here we have vacuums here and there. The economy is struggling. You have all that. The issue of the central bank also coming. Well, I agree with them on the issue of the central bank and the commercial banks for the recapitalization. As at the time, we were at 25 billion. We were not this populated, and the economy wasn't this way. But back to the issue in question, it shows that there was lack of preparedness for this government for us to have such vacancies not filled up, awaiting this, awaiting that. And it also tells a lot about our relationship with other countries. We're busy going there to look for investors, but we don't, in some of this country, we don't have our image there. We don't have the right kind of image in the minds of those countries where you don't have the right people and all that. So I think this government should do what it ought to do and do it quickly. We cannot be having a haphazard administrative process all the time, lagging behind. You see that you are not able to fix something or you are fixing it haphazardly. We are tired of this government too. I'm just saying it.
Thank you so much, Barrister. Emeka, before we go, tell us what prepares a government for leadership. I mean, growing up as a child, I read in papers, I saw that the president did well as the governor of Lagos State, even though we see that there's a huge, jarring between when he was.
Well, who said he did well?
Well, I read in papers. As
I was
I
a
said.
reporter.
Okay, so.
And part of my remit was to cover his activities.
Okay.
I know how things went down, but let's go back.
Lagos greatly developed, so it's assumed that he did well as a governor. But let's rest that, right? So tell us what you think he should have done before assuming power, because sometimes we feel we are ready for some offices until we get there and say that we are really up against a lot, right? So maybe the man may be overwhelmed, so to speak.
Well, he'll be overwhelmed because he prepared for the office. He didn't prepare for the job. There's a difference between preparing for an office, the grandeur, different from preparing for the job, the responsibilities, the things that hit you first of all when you come to realization, whereby sometimes you may even, while the AC is blowing, you open the windows of your office because what you see on your table, like one of my friends used to joke then when back in the days, he said, thank God we're journalists, we are not bank executives looking for deposits in billions. That you will see your classmates
Targets.
in an air-conditioned car sweating, fanning themselves because they have been given a target of 1 billion to make. But you're just giving a target of stories and interviews, just by the way. So what I'm talking about is that, you see, our Nigerian politicians don't read. There is a palpable absence of intellectual content in our politicians. Ask them, which book, when last did you read a book? Which book did you read last? When last did you engage in an intellectual,
Exercise.
Intellectual interface with your aides? Name the top 5 worst case scenarios that your government can run into and your solutions to them. But they don't. So, because we've elevated religion, to the Bobo Nishe, like Yorubas would say, So any small thing, God will not allow it to happen in Nigeria. Any small thing, let us pray that God will destroy kidnappers. Why are we? We have become comedians. Simple issues that we can just read. Look, let me tell you something. We have over 100 universities in Nigeria. And every year they produce graduates with research works. They produce master's degree holders. They produce doctorate degree holders with thesis, doctoral thesis. Who goes to study those theses? USAID, DFID, Different organizations sponsor reports. They even sponsor journalists to go on special investigations. These reports are available in public libraries. Who goes to read them? So you will see a problem that has been well articulated. You will see people saying, we need to this, as if it's a new problem. Even government itself has set up committees that drew up reports, drew up white papers.
They will not use it.
Hi, they will just put these things by the side. Look at the embarrassment of ASU, the ASU strike. That was avoidable, just because of Buhari's ego. I heard somewhere that the Minister of Education said he went to meet Buhari. I said, Mr. President, just approve, let's give it. He said no. That he burst into tears after he left Buhari's office. How can a man, a common and ordinary... Look, one of the things I'm hoping for is that Buhari will be jailed for what he did to this country. I've been saying it, but people laugh at it. I said, because that man damaged this country beyond repair. I hope somehow we can get over the destruction that man brought to this country. So, what I'm talking about, leadership is about knowing the fact that, like I teach my children, I say, you are servants. We are all servants. It's better you serve on the level of a servant so that you can learn, you can listen, and then you can gather information. People will be willing to talk to you. They'll be willing to help you. But when you begin to look at yourself with some assumed positions, I'm the president and commander-in-chief, you have begun to fail. And we must face facts. Any leader who does not read is a disaster.
True. Very true. I think before we coast home, Emeka, I think this question should still go to you, especially as regards the abducted editor. And we have a story here. IPI, NGE, NUJ condemns military abduction of a newspaper, a journalist, and seek a punishment. With your experience in journalism, do you think it's ever possible to see punishment for such an action, especially if there are no evidence to prove that this journalist is guilty of what has been said he did?
You see, too often in Nigeria, we have irresponsible conduct. We condone irresponsible conduct, and that's why you have impunity. Tell me, does the military have power to prosecute anybody? No. You can only prosecute crimes within the Armed Forces Act. That has to do with, co-plotting and all that. If somebody goes to steal a yam inside a barrack, the military cannot prosecute him. You have to hand him or her over to the police. So, if you go and adopt a journalist, all you're just doing is you're giving the military a bad image, 1. 2, you're making the journalist more popular. And 3, get ready for damages. Because if you adopt somebody like me, I will sue you. If it's the last thing I do in my life, I will sue you for damages up to the Supreme Court, and I will get heavy damages. Because you have no right to deny any man of his liberty outside constitutional prescriptions. So to just go and pick somebody in dead of night because one fellow suffering from an overbloated ego sends some people to go and do so. We must condemn impunity. And I hope the media, goes and fights this thing. Because you think journalists are just people you can pick anyhow. No, you dare not. And I remember a former Attorney General of the Federation warned the security agencies, the way you are tampering with people's rights, you are causing problems for them because all this, any court case comes to us in Ministry of Justice, Federal Ministry of Justice. And then when the courts now make pronouncements on damages, we are the ones to start calculating and all of that. And we are having huge bills. He said, stop. It's time to put a stop to impunity. So definitely, it is very wrong that President Bola Tinubu has kept quiet over it. Vice President Kashim Shettima kept quiet over it. And the military authorities have kept quiet until the media began to search, and then they found out that it was in the custody of the Defense Intelligence Agency. What is the business of the DIA with a journalist? Even if there is anything, that has to, you come out and announce. And by the way, it's the police that has the right of arrest. Not even the DSS can go and pick somebody and keep in his custody. Because the law says you can't keep somebody in custody for more than 48 hours. Unless you have a court order. So all of these things, let me tell you, when we build up impunity, we forget one day that we will leave all those positions and become ordinary citizens. Now, when our rights are tampered with, we will run to the same media and start, asking the media, please fire them, this and that. No. No.
Very true. Very true.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much, Emeka.
Yeah, so this is just about the time we have newspaper reviews. Of course, we'd love to say thank you to Emeka Madunago for being part of our show, and Dr. Vance Ofeli. Thank you also for being part of our show.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, when we return, gunmen bomb police divisional headquarters in Anambra. We find out why in just a moment.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.